My wife stood in our kitchen with her overnight bag on her shoulder and said, "I'm at Rachel's. Call her if you don't believe me." She said it the way you slam a door. This is Still Waters, and tonight's story is about what happened when he finally made that call. Here's what he wrote. So that night, for the first time in 14 months of Thursdays, I actually called Rachel. Rachel answered on the fourth ring, whispering, because she was in the break room of St. Luke's, 6 hours into a 12-hour shift. My wife's car was parked in Rachel's driveway. Rachel was not in Rachel's house. 6 weeks later, the three of us, me, Rachel, and my wife, were standing in Rachel's living room at the same time, and I will remember the sound Rachel's keys made hitting that little glass bowl for the rest of my life. But the part that actually keeps me up isn't the living room. It's a text my wife sent me months after it was all over. One sentence, and I believe every word of it. And that's exactly why it's the worst part of this story. I'll get there. I'm 38. My wife, Alana, is 35. Married 5 years, together 7. No kids. Next year, for 5 straight years, which tells its own story if you're listening, and I wasn't. I estimate jobs for a commercial roofing company. She's in pharmaceutical sales. We have a house in the suburbs with a maple out front, and a mortgage we split 60-40, because I make a little more. On paper, we were fine. On paper is where I live, professionally, so that should have worried me sooner. Rachel has been Alana's best friend since nursing school. Rachel finished. Alana switched tracks to sales. Rachel married a guy named Cole around the same time we got married. The 4 of us did things together, maybe 5-6 times a year. Cole sells boats, laughs loud, remembers your drink order. I liked him fine. Save that sentence somewhere, because I'm going to need you to remember I liked him. The Thursdays started 14 months ago. It made sense at the beginning, which is how all of it makes sense at the beginning. Rachel had rotated onto permanent Thursday night shifts. Cole traveled for boat shows, and Alana pitched it as keeping Rachel's house from feeling empty. Wine, bad TV, girls' night. She'd sleep in the guest room and drive to work from there Friday morning. The first few months, I thought it was sweet. I'd get a photo sometimes. 2 wine glasses, a paused movie. Notice the detail in that. 2 glasses. She was building a file for me, and I was grateful for it. Then Thursdays grew. Sometimes a Sunday afternoon got added, helping Rachel with the garden. Sometimes she'd leave Thursday at 5 instead of 8. And around month 8, the rules changed about asking. I'd say something completely ordinary. "You heading over tonight?" And get back a sigh with weight on it. Why do you need the itinerary? You track packages, not wives. And the big one, the one she landed one Tuesday in March when I asked if Rachel was even home this week. Stop auditing me. I'm not one of your job sites. I'm at Rachel's. Call her if you don't believe me. Here's the thing about that sentence. It works because you won't. It's a bet that the phone call costs you more than the doubt does. Because making that call means admitting, out loud, at 11:40 on a Thursday night, that you're the kind of husband who checks. She knew me. She knew I'd rather eat the doubt. For 3 more months, I ate it. What broke it was rain. Middle of June, one of those storms that flips your phone into emergency alerts. Alana was at Rachel's. Around 11:30, I noticed her laptop bag by the door. She had an 8 a.m. presentation. She'd texted about it that afternoon, and the laptop was sitting in our hallway. That's it. That's the whole innocent reason. I called Alana, straight to voicemail, which was normal for girls' night. So I called Rachel to say I'd dropped the bag on my way to an early site visit. No drama. A courier run between 2 houses. Fourth ring. Hey, everything okay? Whisper. Fluorescent hum behind her. I know a hospital break room when I hear one. My mother spent her last year in and out of St. Luke's. I said, Sorry, is Alana asleep already? And there was a pause I have replayed maybe 400 times. 2 seconds, maybe 3. Then Rachel said, carefully, I'm on until 7. Why would Alana be here? I looked at the laptop bag in our hallway. I said, My mistake. Wrong week. Long day. And Rachel, quiet, said, Right. Neither of us hung up for a second. 2 people standing on opposite ends of the same trap door. Then she said she had to get back. And I said, of course. And that was the entire conversation that ended 2 marriages. I didn't drive over there. I want you to understand why, because this is the part of me the comments will argue about. If I drive over at midnight, I get a scene. Scenes can be survived. I'm dramatic. I'm paranoid. I'm misunderstood. She was napping. Her phone died. I didn't want a scene. I wanted the whole ledger. My job is standing on a roof, somebody swears is fine, and pricing out what the water already did underneath. You don't fix the shingle. You map the damage. So I mapped it. 6 weeks. Here's what mapping looked like, with numbers, because the numbers are what held up later. Our joint credit card, which I'd stopped reading line by line years ago, the way you stop reading terms and conditions. DoorDash charges, Thursday nights, over and over. A statement only shows the amount, so I opened the app itself. We shared one account, my login, and the old tablet in our kitchen was still signed in. Order history keeps everything. 17 orders across 4 months. Delivered to the address saved as Rachel plus Cole. Every order, 2 entrees. My wife does not eat 2 entrees. Gas. Alana's car does about 26 miles round trip to Rachel's, but she filled up twice as often. In months, her calendar said nothing else changed. There were drives happening I couldn't see. And the guest room detail, the one that still embarrasses me. For 14 months of sleepovers, Alana never once took a toothbrush or left one there. You don't pack a toothbrush for a house where you already have one. Then there was the calendar on Rachel's side, which I got the polite way. I asked. Not at first. First I sat on it for 2 weeks and slept next to my wife and said absolutely nothing. And if you've never done that, I hope you never learn what it does to your jaw. She'd come home Friday evenings, soft and generous. Kiss the top of my head. Tell me Rachel says hi. Rachel says hi. Some nights, she'd complain about Rachel's wine selection, build the whole set around herself, prop up little details like scenery flats. What got me, more than the lying itself, was the fluency. Those 2 weeks of silence deserve their own paragraph, because they were the hardest professional performance of my life. One Friday, she came home with a story about Rachel's disastrous attempt at making paella. The smoke alarm, the takeout they ordered to cover the failure. Rachel laughing so hard she cried. Detail after detail after detail delivered across our kitchen island while I chopped onions and said, no way, in the right places. Rachel had worked that entire night. I'd already checked. My wife stood 4 feet from me and performed a comedy set about an evening that never happened, complete with a punchline, and the onions gave me somewhere to put my eyes. That was the night I stopped wondering whether I could go through with the plan. You can forgive a person who breaks. She wasn't breaking. She was rehearsed. I even went back through the barbecue, the one where it started, though I didn't know yet that's what I was looking at. 14 months ago, Cole's birthday, 20 people in Rachel's backyard. I have a photo from that day. I've studied it like the Zapruder film. Alana's in the corner of the frame, laughing at something off camera, and Cole is at the grill, 40 feet away, not even facing her. There's nothing in that photo. I need you to hear that. Whoever's listening and running their own audit right now, sometimes there is no clue you missed. Sometimes it starts in the 20 minutes nobody photographed. I called Rachel on a Tuesday and asked if she'd meet me for coffee after her shift. 7 a.m., a diner by the hospital, her still in scrubs, hands around the mug like it was January. I didn't do a speech. I slid my phone across the table with the DoorDash addresses lined up, Thursday after Thursday after Thursday, and I said, "You work every Thursday night. Who's ordering 2 dinners to your house?" Rachel looked at the screen for a long time. She didn't cry, which surprised me. Later she told me nurses cry on a delay. It's a shift work thing. The feelings clock in after the body clocks out. What she said first was, Cole put a passcode on his phone in March. Then, mostly to herself, the recycling. There's always more glass in the recycling than I drink. She'd been doing her own quiet math and calling the total something else. Every bin day, every locked phone, every Thursday, her house smelled slightly like somebody's shampoo. When 2 people count the same evidence alone, both of them round it down. Together, at that diner table, the number finally refused to round. Rachel wanted to blow it up that day. Drive home, wake him up, done. I talked her into 3 more weeks, and here's where I'll admit who I'd become by then. Part of it was strategy. Ohio's a no-fault state, but dissipation of marital assets is real, and every Asheville receipt made the mediation cleaner. Part of it was colder than that. They'd had 14 months of Thursdays. I wanted one. Those 3 weeks cost Rachel more than my 2 ever cost me, and I didn't understand the exchange rate until later. I got to go home to the person who didn't know I knew. She had to go home to the one who did the thing. She started picking up extra shifts, 4 doubles in 3 weeks, because she told me afterward, the hospital was the only building where the performance stopped. One night at 1:40 a.m., she texted me, "He made my favorite dinner tonight. I ate all of it. What does that make me?" I typed and deleted 4 different answers and finally sent, "Hungry." She sent back a laugh cry emoji and then nothing else until morning. Nurses cry on a delay. I've thought about that text more than almost anything else in this story. So, we built our Thursday. Rachel's schedule was the whole trick. The affair ran on it like a train on rails. She swapped shifts with another nurse, told no one, kept her posted schedule showing Thursday night 7 to 7. I told Alana I was driving to Cincinnati for a bid and staying over, which, for the record, is the only lie I told in 7 years of marriage, and I'd already been holding proof of hundreds. That Thursday at 6:10, Alana texted me a heart and "staying at Rach's, don't wait up." I texted back, "drive safe," from a parking lot 2 blocks from Rachel's house, and then I sat there for 2 hours watching the sky go dark over a dry cleaner's because we couldn't go in until they'd settled. Rachel got in my passenger seat at 8:15, still in scrubs, holding 2 gas station coffees neither of us drank. We didn't talk much. At one point she said, "I picked that couch." 8 months we argued about that couch. That's the sentence I think about when people ask me what betrayal actually costs. Nobody mourns the marriage in the abstract. You mourn the couch. At 8:40, we let ourselves in through the garage, and then Rachel and I were standing in her own darkened kitchen like 2 burglars of our own lives, listening to my wife and her husband laugh at something on the TV 1 room away. There was a smell of food, The DoorDash bags were on the counter, 2 entrees, right where the statement said they'd be. Rachel looked at the bags for a long moment. Then she looked at me and nodded once, like a foreman signing off on a demolition. We'd agreed. No yelling, no cinema. Rachel walked to the entryway, turned on the hall light, and dropped her keys into the little glass bowl by the door, the way she did every single morning coming off shift. That sound. Keys on glass. The television snapped off. The silence that followed had a texture I can't describe to you, except to say I heard a couch cushion exhale. Cole came around the corner first, in sweatpants, saying, "Babe, you're..." and stopped, because behind Rachel, I stood up. And then Alana appeared in the doorway of the living room, barefoot, holding her wine, in a sweater I'd watched her pack that afternoon, and I got to see it. The exact half second where the story she lived in and the room she stood in stopped matching. She looked at me and said, and I will never get over the engineering of it, "This isn't what it looks like." Rachel said, "You're in my house." Nobody screamed. That's the detail people don't believe. But there were 4 adults in that entryway, and everyone understood the math instantly. Screaming is for when there's still a version to fight about. Cole tried logistics. "Let's all sit down." And Rachel said, "You don't offer people seats in my living room." Alana asked twice how long I'd known, which fascinated me even in the moment. Her first instinct was to audit my timeline. I put a folder on the entry table. Copies. DoorDash, the card statements, the 3 girls' trips to Asheville, $6,200 of our joint money across 14 months. Hotels booked under her card with Cole's loyalty number attached, because Cole never met a discount he didn't love. I said, "You're at Rachel's." I called her. And we left, both of us. Rachel got the house that night. The 2 of them got the entryway. She came home the next morning to talk. I'd already moved her toothbrush to the guest bathroom, which she noticed before anything else. Funny, given everything. The conversation went the way these go. 14 months, which she called less than a year, until I put the first DoorDash date in front of her. It started at a barbecue we all attended. I've since remembered that barbecue in forensic detail and found nothing, which taught me something humbling about what I'm able to see. She said the word lonely 8 times. I counted, because counting is what I had left. She said they never planned it, and I said, "Nobody plans Thursdays for 14 months, Alana. A standing appointment is the most planned thing there is." And when the apologies didn't move me, the framing shifted, right on schedule. I was cold. I worked constantly. I audited everything. No wonder. Notice the shape of that. In the entryway, it wasn't what it looked like. By the kitchen, it was somehow my fault that it was exactly what it looked like. The escalation I didn't plan for came from Cole 2 weeks later. He showed up at my office parking lot at the end of the day, leaning against his truck like it was a boat show and I was foot traffic. He'd come to explain, man to man, that these things happen, that nobody meant to hurt anybody, that we're all adults. I let him do the whole speech. Salesmen hate silence. It makes them add features. By the end, he'd worked his way around to suggesting that Rachel and I had handled it cruelly. The ambush, the folder, the audience. I told him the folder had a page he hadn't seen yet. The hotel loyalty account. His number. Her card. 9 stays. Points redeemed for a free night he'd used in May. During a week, Rachel thought he was at the Cleveland Boat Show. His face did what Alana's face had done in the doorway. It turned out he hadn't told his attorney about the loyalty account. on the theory that nobody reads those statements. I read those statements. It's the whole job. He got in his truck without finishing the sentence he'd started, and that was the last conversation Cole and I ever had. Alana's mother called me that same week, which I dreaded until it happened. She's a retired school teacher, precise as a bell. She said, I raised her to be smarter than the things she did. I'm not calling to defend her. I'm calling because you were my son for 7 years, and I wanted to say it out loud. We talked for 10 minutes about her garden. I cried after that call in a way I never cried about the folder. And if you don't understand why, I can't explain it to you. Mediation took 4 months. The Asheville trips and about $5,600 of restaurant and gift spending got classified as dissipation. $11,800 total, credited back against her share before the split. Her attorney didn't fight it hard. The folder was clean, dated, and boring, which is what you want a folder to be. She kept her car and her retirement. I kept the house and bought out her equity minus the credit. The maple's still out front. Some mornings I stand under it with coffee and feel the strangest thing, which is nothing much at all. The way a roof feels after you've finally stripped it down to deck and rebuilt it. Quiet, dry, not new. Sound. Rachel's divorce moved faster than mine. Nurses are efficient, and Cole, it turns out, folds early when there's paperwork. She sold the house with the glass bowl. We're friends. I'll answer it before the comments ask, because they'll ask. We had exactly one dinner that anyone could call a dinner, and we spent it going over settlement logistics like two people who'd survived the same plane crash. And somewhere between the appetizers, she laughed and said, "We're the least romantic story in this restaurant." And she was right, and it was the easiest laugh I'd had in a year. Most Thursdays now, she gets off shift, and we get 7 a.m. coffee at that same diner. Same booth. The waitress thinks we're married. Neither of us has corrected her yet, and I'm not going to examine. That sentence today, and neither should you. Alana texted me once, months after everything closed, late on a Thursday, which I choose to believe was accidental. It said, I know you'll never believe anything I say again, but it really did start as just Thursdays at Rachel's. That's the text from the beginning of this story. And the thing is, I do believe it, completely, without a flicker. That's why it's the worst part. If she'd been lying all along, I could file her away as someone I never really knew. Instead, I get to know this. It started as the truth. Every lie that lasts does. She told me to call Rachel if I didn't believe her. It's the only advice she ever gave me that worked. I just wish I'd taken it a year sooner. And every Thursday at 7 a.m., in a diner booth that smells like burnt coffee, I take it again. That's the whole story. If this one stayed with you, subscribe to Still Waters. There's a new one every 2 days. Thanks for listening.